Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about ordering rational numbers, and I'm going to be going through two examples. We'll be doing both positive and negative rational numbers today. So, the key concepts are that when we order rational numbers, we first need to convert the numbers to a common form. So, maybe we convert them all to fractions with the same denominator, maybe we convert them all to decimals. Typically, we will choose to convert them all to decimals in most situations, but we'll talk about for each individual case what the easiest way would be to get them all to be the same form. And also, we have to keep in mind that negative numbers are always smaller than positive numbers. So, automatically, all the negative numbers are going to be first, followed by zero if zero is part of the number set we're ordering, followed by all the positive numbers. That's always how it will be. All right, so here it says order the following rational numbers: 1.25, 5 over 4, negative 3 over 2, and 0.75. So right off the bat, I noticed that we have three positive numbers, which are the first one, the second one, and the last one, and one negative number. And because negative numbers are always smaller than positive numbers, I automatically know that the smallest is going to be negative 3 over 2. So if I'm ordering from least to greatest, automatically that one's going to be first. The next one is the next thing I need to do is I need to consider the other three numbers because they're all positive numbers, and I need to get them to be switched into a common form. Now, two of these are decimals, and only one of them is a fraction. So, probably the best way for me to do that is to switch them all into the form of a fraction or of a decimal, because then I would only have to convert 5 over 4 into a decimal. I wouldn't have to convert anything else. So 5 over 4 is the same, recall that that's the same as 1 and 1/4, because 4 goes into 5 one time with a remainder of 1 as well, right? Because 4 times 1 is just 4, plus 1 more would be 5. So 5 over 4 is the same as 1 and 1/4. And also recall that 1/4 is the same as 0.25, right? Now, I want to go into a little bit more detail as to why that is. If we multiply the 4 by 25, and the 1 by 25, we get 25 over 100. And recall that after the decimal, the first place is the tenths place, and the second place is the hundredths place. And so, therefore, if we have 25 over 100, then we would have to have 0.25 like this. Now, in this case, since we have a 1, this would be the same as 1.25. And so essentially, 5 over 4 is the same thing as 1.25. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the next biggest after the negative number would be 0.75, because that's 0 point something. And so something that's less than 1 is definitely going to be smaller than something greater than 1. And then 1.25 itself and 5 over 4 are a tie for the largest, right? So they're a tie for the largest value. And then over here we have the smallest value, and then 0.75 is in the middle. So essentially, if we can convert everything that is positive to the same form and everything that's negative to the same form, that'll make it a lot easier for us to compare them. All right, let's go ahead and move on to one more example for today. Here it says to order the following rational numbers: 3 over 8, 0.4, negative 1/2, and 0.1. So right away, once again, I notice we have three positives and one negative. So automatically the positive numbers are larger than the negative number. So the smallest number here automatically, without even having to do any calculations, is going to be the negative number, which is negative 1/2. Then I'm going to take a look at the positive numbers we have left, which are 3 over 8, 0.4, and 0.1. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to convert them all into the same format. So 0.1 and 0.4 already are in decimal format, so I'm going to switch 3 over 8 to decimal format as well. Now, because the denominator is 8, 8 actually is not going to have 100 or 10 or 1,000 or 10,000 as a multiple. So what we're going to do is we're going to do long division in order to find out the decimal for 3 over 8. And the decimals for any fraction are going to end up being either repeating or terminating. In this case, it's a terminating one, which we'll find out in a minute, but either way, it's going to be either repeating or terminating at some point. So for 3 over 8, That means we're going to have 8 here and 3 in here. And my first question is, how many times does 8 go into 3? Well, 0 times. 8's larger than 3, so it can't go in at all. How many times does 8 go into 30? Well, 8 times 4 is 32, so that's a little bit too big. But 8 times 3 is 24, so I'm going to put a 3 here and a 24 there. 30 minus 24 is 6, and I'm going to bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 60? Well, 8 times 7 is 56, which is pretty darn close, so I'm going to go with that. 8 times 7, 56. 60 minus 56 is 4, and I'm going to bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? Well, 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40 itself, and then we get a 0. So because we get remainder of 0, that means the decimal ends here, so we actually did not need this extra 0 and this extra part of our division there. And so therefore, 3/8 is equivalent to 0.375. Now that the numbers are all in the same format, we can more easily order them. So what I'm going to first do is take a look at the digits that are in the tens place. So for this one, the digit in the tens place is 1. For this one, the digit in the tens place is 3. And for this one, the digit in the tens place is 4. Now, if these were all the same, or if 2 or more of them were the same, I should say, we'd also, for any of those that applied there, we would have to look at the next value to see, okay, is the next value bigger, is the next value bigger, and so on. But in this case, all of these are different, so we can just order them in terms of which one is smallest, second smallest, largest, and so on. Now, in this case, something else I should note too is that the reason we are able to compare the tens places is because the ones places are all 0, so they're all the same. And so keep in mind that if the ones places were different, we would take those into account first before we go into tenths, then hundreds, then thousands. Because keep in mind that every 1 is bigger than every 10, which is bigger than every 1 out of 100, which is bigger than every 1 out of 1,000, and so on. And so the bigger place values, the place values that represent more in a number, we account for first. So the answer for this one then is 0.1 is the next smallest, because 1, this is equivalent to 1 out of 10. Then the next one is 0.375, which actually that one came from 3/8, so I'm going to write the original value. 3/8 goes next because 3/8 is the equivalent of 0.375. And then 0.4, that's like 4 out of 10. That would be the next one. And that is the correct order from least to greatest for this set of rational numbers. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave those down in the comment section, and we'll see you for the next one.